The morning sun struggled to pierce through the dusty blinds of the small apartment, its weak light falling over a cluttered coffee table, a pair of tiny pink shoes, and a man sitting silently on an old couch. His name was Evan Moore, a 35-year-old single father who hadn't known peace since his wife's accident 2 years ago. Every breath felt like dragging the weight of the world. Bills piled up like unspoken regrets, his job as a mechanic barely covered rent, and raising his 6-year-old daughter Mila alone had turned life into a storm he couldn't escape. But that morning, something felt different. A quiet tension hung in the air, the kind that whispers something is about to change. Evan hadn't planned on letting a stranger into his home, but sometimes life doesn't ask, it just happens. Before we go deeper into this unforgettable story of kindness, redemption, and a single act that turned a struggling father's life upside down, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. If you believe in the power of second chances and small acts of compassion that change lives forever. It had all started the night before, when Evan saw a woman standing outside the local grocery store, hugging herself against the chill. She looked lost, her coat thin, her hair wet from the drizzle, her eyes scanning every passing car, as if searching for hope that wouldn't come. He had noticed her earlier while picking up milk and cereal for Mila, but when he came out she was still there, shivering, alone, pretending to make a phone call that clearly wasn't connecting. Something about her, maybe the way she looked at the sky as though it had abandoned her, pulled at the part of Evan's heart that still knew what pain felt like. He could have walked away. God knows he had enough problems of his own. But when he heard her stomach growl faintly in the quiet, he couldn't. "You okay there?" he asked awkwardly, holding Mila's tiny hand. The woman hesitated before nodding, eyes glistening as if trying to hide something deeper. Her name, she said softly, was Avery. She had just come into town looking for work, but her motel reservation had fallen through. She had nowhere to go. It wasn't in Evan's nature to trust easily, not anymore. Too many people had promised to help after his wife passed, and most vanished when things got hard. Still, when Mila tugged at his sleeve and whispered, "Daddy, can she stay with us tonight?" she looked sad. Something inside him gave way. He looked at the woman again, cold, exhausted, but polite enough to keep a distance, and heard himself say, "I've got a couch. It's not much, but you're welcome to it." That night, while the rain pattered against the windows, Avery slept curled up on the couch, a blanket around her shoulders, while Evan lay awake in his small bedroom, wondering what he had just done. He didn't know her story. He didn't even know if he could trust her. But something told him she wasn't dangerous, just broken in ways he understood all too well. The next morning, when sunlight filled the apartment, Evan got up early, ready to make breakfast before heading to work. Mila was already sitting on the floor, coloring with the same focus her mother once had. Avery, still half asleep, apologized for taking up space and offered to help. Evan waved her off, awkward but kind. She noticed the stack of overdue bills on the counter, the eviction notice half hidden under a newspaper, and the wariness in his eyes as he tried to smile for his daughter. As they sat for breakfast, simple scrambled eggs and toast, Avery asked about his job. He told her he worked at a small auto shop on the edge of town, barely keeping things together. "I used to be a nurse," she said quietly, "before things fell apart." Her voice broke slightly, and she didn't elaborate, but the honesty in her tone made Evan nod without question. After breakfast, he got ready to leave for work, expecting that she would be gone by the time he returned. He didn't know that she had already made up her mind to do something that would change his life forever. When Evan came home that evening, Avery was still there, but she wasn't resting. The dishes were washed, the living room cleaned, and Mila was sitting on the couch, giggling at something on TV. "She read me stories, Daddy," Mila announced excitedly. Avery smiled shyly from the kitchen, her hands folded nervously. "I hope you don't mind," she said softly. He didn't. In fact, for the first time in months, the apartment felt warm, like a home again. But what truly stunned him was when Avery walked over and said, "I made a call today. I hope you're not angry." Before he could respond, she continued, "I called someone I used to work with, a doctor. He runs a community outreach clinic downtown. They've been looking for a part-time mechanic to maintain their mobile care units. I told him about you. He wants to meet you tomorrow." He even stared at her, unable to speak. His throat tightened as the meaning of her words sank in. Someone believed in him. Someone he had known for less than 24 hours. "Why would you do that for me?" he asked finally. Avery's eyes glistened. "Because someone once did the same for me, and I never forgot how it felt." That night, Evan barely slept. The thought of an opportunity, a real one, was almost too much to hope for. The next morning, he put on his cleanest shirt, dropped Milo off at school, and went to meet the doctor. The man, Dr. Rowan, greeted him warmly. "Avery told me you're the kind of man who keeps things running even when they shouldn't," he said with a smile. Within half an hour, Evan was offered a stable position, better pay, benefits, and a flexible schedule that allowed him to be there for Mila. When he returned home, he found Avery packing her bag. "You're leaving?" he asked, a hint of disappointment in his voice. She nodded gently. "I needed a place to breathe for a night, Evan. You gave me that. Now you've got your chance. It's time I find mine again." He wanted to protest, but something told him she needed to go. She had already done her part. 2 weeks passed and life began to shift. Evan's new job brought stability, a sense of pride he hadn't felt in years. He fixed the clinic vans, learned to smile again, and even started saving for Mila's school. But no matter how busy he got, he couldn't stop thinking about Avery. The woman who appeared out of nowhere, changed everything, and vanished like a whisper. Then one bright Saturday morning, as he and Mila were shopping for groceries, a voice behind him said, "You still make terrible coffee, don't you?" He turned around, heart leaping. It was Avery, smiling, dressed neatly this time, her eyes brighter than before. "Avery, where have you been?" he asked, astonished. She told him she had reconnected with her old hospital, taken a job at the community clinic, the same one he worked for. Fate, it seemed, wasn't done weaving their stories together. Over the following months, they worked side by side, him fixing engines, her helping patients, and a quiet bond grew between them. There were no grand declarations, no rushed emotions, just shared lunches, gentle laughter, and the kind of understanding only two wounded souls could share. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low over the clinic parking lot, Mila ran up holding a small flower. "Miss Avery," she said, "Daddy says flowers mean thank you." Avery crouched down, smiling softly. "Then tell your daddy he's welcome." Their eyes met, and in that brief moment it felt like all the pain, all the struggle had led to something real, something worth keeping. 2 months turned into a year. The small apartment that once echoed with loneliness now overflowed with laughter. Avery had become part of their lives, not because they needed saving, but because they had found healing in each other's presence. Evan still remembered the night he let a stranger sleep on his couch, and how that single act of kindness returned to him in ways he could never have imagined. Sometimes, the people who seem like they've lost everything are the ones who help us find what truly matters. If this story touched your heart or reminded you that kindness can rewrite any life story, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Because every act of compassion deserves to be remembered and shared. And before we end, comment below with the words, "Kindness changes everything." If you believe that even one small act can transform an entire future. That morning when Evan first opened his door to a stranger, he thought he was giving someone else a place to rest. But in truth, he was opening a door to his own second chance. A reminder that even the most broken hearts can find their way home, as long as kindness still exists in the world.